So I was walking on this path over here through the grass, heading over to Virgil's camp. And right when I got to like where that little tree is right there, I just heard like this power knock, just wood on wood, just right down over the edge here.
So we pulled off, sat there about 5 minutes, stuff started coming down around us. Sounded like big rocks, big pieces of wood. You could hear something walking through the water. And there's no houses anywhere around it.
The forest is a world apart, but when the shadows stir, you realize you're not alone. Tonight, we reveal 7 terrifying Bigfoot encounters that defy explanation. From heavy footsteps in the night to eerie knocks and vanishing footprints, fear lurks in every shadow. Are these just legends? Or is something truly watching from the darkness? Animal Planet follows the team back into coastal Georgia, where reports of unexplained sightings surround the restricted lands of Fort Stewart Army Base. As the investigation begins, the calm is suddenly broken. A large disturbance moves through the nearby water, slow, powerful, and impossible to ignore. The team freezes, listening as something unseen shifts just beyond the shoreline. Whatever made that sound is close, and its presence suggests they are no longer alone.
Whoa, what was that? Did you hear that? I heard something moving over there, yeah. What the heck is that?
The team prepares to initiate a series of calls, carefully positioning themselves along the edge of the marsh. Moments earlier, Matt and his partner detected something large moving through the reeds. Heavy, deliberate, and unseen. Visibility is limited, forcing them to rely entirely on sound. As the calls echo across the wetlands, the group falls silent, listening closely for any response. Whatever stirred the marsh may still be nearby, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself.
We're looking over the river now. It's really wide. It's kind of an estuary here. There's some islands in front of us, so we're gonna do a few calls.
Perfect, you guys are in a great spot. Matt and I just heard something big moving through the marsh. We've got ourselves out here. Matt can't see anything. So we're gonna listen to your calls, see if anything else happens.
The team pressed onward, venturing toward new ground. The property had seemed promising, bordering Fort Stewart, an area steeped in reports of strange sightings. Thick woods, hidden marshes, and shadowed estuaries offered perfect cover for something large, something unseen. The crew turned toward town, hoping that local witnesses might finally lead them to the secrets the forest refused to reveal. The hunt was far from over.
We took a guess with this property. It was a good guess, though, because the property is adjacent to Fort Stewart, which does have a lot of sightings. And out here, there is a lot of marshes and estuaries and thick woods where a Sasquatch could hide. But despite good Sasquatch territory, this location just didn't pan out tonight. So now we're headed into town hall, and hopefully there we'll get some good witnesses who will bring us to some better spots.
The BFRO team welcomed the crowd in Georgia, expressing their gratitude for everyone who came out. They paid special tribute to those currently serving in the armed forces, as well as veterans who had served in the past. For the few who had encountered the legendary Bigfoot, the team offered a salute, acknowledging their bravery and the extraordinary experiences they had witnessed.
Hello, Georgia.
And thank you very much for coming out. We'd like to extend a special welcome to those people who are either currently serving in the armed forces or have done so in the past. For those about to squatch, we salute you.
Who saw one? Who saw Bigfoot?
Brian recalled an experience from 2007, one that still sent chills down his spine. He and his wife had decided to ride their four-wheelers through the night, stopping in a remote clearing for a few minutes of rest. Almost immediately, strange sounds began to surround them. Heavy thuds, like massive rocks or fallen timber, echoed through the darkness. Something moved through the nearby water, deliberate and powerful, yet there were no houses, no people, nothing for miles around. The isolation made the presence all the more terrifying.
My name is Brian. I had an experience in 2007. Me and my wife decided we was going to ride four-wheelers throughout the night. So we pulled off, sat there about 5 minutes, stuff started coming down around us. Sounded like big rocks, big pieces of wood. You could hear something walking through the water, and there's no houses anywhere around her.
Another terrifying story comes from a girl who thought she was just taking a walk through the woods, never imagining a simple walk through the woods could turn into a nightmare. The night was quiet, too quiet, until a heavy, dragging sound came from her right, just 10 feet away. Her heart pounded as she clutched the cross around her neck and dared a glance back. And there it was, its head eerily following her, moving with a cold, relentless stare. Fear rooted her to the spot, every instinct screaming to run.
I was walking along just fine. To my right, I heard something. It sounded very heavy, and I was maybe 10 feet from it. I had a cross around my neck. I grabbed it. I looked back one time, and when I looked back, its head was just following me.
This incident happened in the spring of 2006. She spotted a figure on the right side of the road, dark brown, shaggy, moving with an eerie, unnatural gait as it began to cross in front of her. Despite holding 2 degrees in biology and years of field research, she had never seen anything like it. Panic surged through her, heart pounding, desperate to get past it. Fear gripped her like a vice, every second stretching into eternity.
2006. I saw a figure on the right-hand side of the road. It was very dark brown, very shaggy. It started to cross the road. I actually have 2 degrees in biology, and I've done a lot of field research, and I've never seen anything like this before. I thought, just drive, just drive, just drive, just drive, just drive. I just wanted to get past it. I was so scared.
Heavy footsteps echoed behind him, followed by a guttural roar that froze him in place.
All of a sudden, I heard this just roar.
A piercing whoop rang out moments later, cutting through the darkness.
About a few minutes later, I heard a whoop.
He turned toward the property inland. Dense forests, swamps, and a winding river stretching for miles. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound a warning. The night had only just begun. The darkness pressed in from all sides, and then it came, a sound unlike anything they had ever heard. It was sharp, sudden, almost intelligent, slicing through the silence of the night. "Something's out there," someone whispered, hearts racing.
Did you hear that? Yeah, I think so. That sounded like Knox.
Every instinct screamed to run, but the forest seemed to hold them in place, daring them to uncover its secret. What lurked in the shadows, shifting just beyond their vision? And in these haunted Georgia woods, will anyone ever uncover the dark, hidden secrets that seem to watch, waiting from the edges of the trees? On a flash of beauty, Bigfoot revealed veteran investigator. Diane Stocking knows patience is as important as belief. Years of fieldwork have uncovered countless pieces of evidence, most traced to hogs, deer, or horses. True anomalies are rare. But in 2001, in Florida's St. Johns River Management Area, Diane faced a case that could defy explanation. At a remote water reclamation facility where the evidence hinted something extraordinary might finally emerge.
Anybody that's been researching as long as I have, you collect evidence. I've received information from people for all kinds of different things. Most of the time, if I get hair, it is usually hog hair, horse hair, deer, something of that nature. I personally have never received actual hair that could possibly be Bigfoot. A lot of footprints, handprints. My favorite investigation was back in Florida back in 2001 at the reclamation plant, water reclamation plant in the St. Johns River Management Area.
Diane was called in after Thomas Steenberg contacted her for a witness, Debbie. The site was already strange. Sightings, eerie sounds, and mysteriously chickens. Most chilling, large prints on full-pane windows left by something peering inside at night. Diane arrived quickly, documenting the scene and stepping into one of the most compelling cases of her career.
Who had been contacted by Debbie, the witness, because I lived down there. He contacted me, and I went out there and investigations as far as sightings, vocalizations. Their chickens got that they had penned up for West Nile virus studies, and fingerprints, handprints. They had full glass pane windows on the reception area, and they had received, I had received rather a phone call from Debbie saying, hey, we've got these handprints on the window that happened when this thing was looking in the window one night. So I went out and there, collected the evidence.
The window marks spoke of a presence both deliberate and elusive. Partial impressions, fingers bent as if peering inside, hinted at motion, an arm shifting along the pane. Embedded hair and oily residue added to the mystery. Diane documented every detail, realizing she was witnessing some of the most tangible, unusual evidence of her career.
This is my favorite. This is obviously skin with hair impressions on it. The handprints and the imprints I received, a lot of oil in them when I looked at them. I did swab them for, you can see it in the pictures. It's the dew on the windows, but a lot of oil in both the handprints and in the impressions from when it leaned its arm against the window.
The experience lingered long after Diane left. Debbie pointed to the window where the strange impressions appeared, high enough to defy human reach. The faint traces of motion and embedded hair made the scene feel otherworldly, turning a routine investigation into a haunting moment that would stay with Diane forever. Diane relished the rare chance to uncover multiple footprints along a single trail. One set featured massive impressions, flanked by smaller, subtler prints. Using hydrocal for new casts, she preserved every ridge and detail. Each impression offered a tangible link to a mystery that had long evaded explanation.
It's great if we find many footprints in a trackway. This one here, 16 inches, we got that. This is from New York, upstate New York. Okay, and alongside that, we found these, a smaller one. So these were done with just plaster pairs, nothing special, because they were done a long time ago. Hydrocal is my favorite form of media because it sets up quicker and it doesn't generate as much heat.
The prints told a story that couldn't be ignored. Diane studied every ridge and swirl, evidence of something beyond human or known animal capabilities. Most investigations yield ordinary tracks, but these were different, weighted with presence that lingered long after she left. Even before experts like Dr. Meldrum and Cliff analyzed the casts, it was clear. This was more than a footprint. It was a whisper from a creature that had walked unseen for decades.
Bigfoot would be concerned to see if there was a difference between a Bigfoot's fingerprints, swirls, and whatever, versus a gorilla or a human. So, but yeah, they're my go-to guys for stuff like that. It's not common to find stuff out when you're investigating something. Like I said, most things you're going to get are footprints, and those you would send to usually Dr. Meldrum or Cliff Berkman.
The research revealed a chilling consistency. From the southeast's dense forests to the remote northwest, the same patterns emerged. Night or day, sightings revealed a creature both elusive and consistent. It was as if the forests themselves were alive, leaving a thread of mystery stretching across the continent. Not every sighting yielded answers. Many were misidentifications, rocks, shadows, tricks of the light. Fearful witnesses snapped hurried photos and fled, leaving mysteries unresolved. When investigators returned, the creature remained unmoving, silently reminding them that the forest plays its own tricks, and that the line between legend and reality is far thinner than most realize.
Misidentifications. You got people out there that they'll see something, it's a Bigfoot. No, it was a rock. It was a tree. It was a this. It was a that. And a lot of people you get when they see something and they'll take a quick picture and then they'll leave because they're so scared. And I'm like, so did you go back there and is it still there? I'm too scared to go back. And you go back there and it's still there because it's a rock or a tree or something.
Even after documenting the site and collecting evidence, one question remains. Was it a trick of nature or something far more extraordinary watching from the shadows? D-Max UK takes us deep into the Canadian Rockies, a wilderness so vast, even the wind seems to whisper secrets. The team traveled to the remote eastern slopes to examine chilling footage captured by Todd Standing. Short, blurry. Some say it shows Bigfoot. Others aren't convinced. Out here, every tree could hide a watcher. Every sound could be a warning. One question remains. What really lurks just beyond the camera's gaze?
I saw this particular video several years back. Todd says his video shows a Bigfoot, but the video is very short and you don't see much of the creature. Some Bigfoot researchers believe this is a hoax.
Todd Standing's name divides the Bigfoot community, but the footage alone doesn't tell the whole story. The site is remote, dangerous, a place where hidden threats lurk behind every tree. Todd guides the team to a nearby location, one that mirrors the original encounter. Every step feels heavier, every sound sharper. It's as if the forest itself is watching, and the shadows move on their own. The team scouted the area, convinced this could be a Bigfoot hotspot. They spotted 3 sentinels, watchers who monitor the main group and alert them to intruders. The plan: position themselves behind one and capture it on camera. But they didn't expect the group's protective instinct. And then, the camera caught it. Something massive, a large male creature watching from the shadows.
My crew and I scouted out this area as a potential Bigfoot hotspot, I guess you call it. As most people know for Bigfoot, they're nocturnal. And we found 3 day watchers, as we call them, that watch over the main group. And so we know when they become alerted to your presence, they move back to the main group. And so what we were doing is we were trying to get as close as we could behind a day watcher. So when she would come back to the main group, she would have to come across this rock face, and that's when we were going to videotape her.
He stood briefly, letting the female day watcher pass. Then, he melted back into the shadows. Silently, he followed her toward the main group. Every movement deliberate, controlled. Fear surged through the team. He was enormous, a true beast of the wilderness. Around them, the forest seemed alive.
Something we didn't anticipate was when the whole group is alerted to your presence, they don't just ditch the day watchers, they come back and make sure they're safe. And I believe that was a large male in the video. And what he was most likely doing is standing up to let the day watcher, the female, come by, and then he got back down and he followed her back to the main group. I started to feel a lot of fear at that point because he was enormous. He was beastly huge. It made me scared. I was afraid.
Every rustle, every shadow, unseen danger lurking everywhere. After hearing Todd's story, Cliff felt a chill down his spine. During the day when the Sasquatch rests, Todd realized something terrifying. He hadn't just disturbed them, he may have put the entire family on alert. Something massive, something intelligent. In this wilderness, every shadow could hide eyes. Every rustle could mean they're not alone.
Todd's story makes a lot of sense in that it supports a theory that Sasquatches are nocturnal. Todd suggests that during the day when the Sasquatches are sleeping, they set out sentinels or watchers to make sure that their family group is safe. Todd thinks on this day he disturbed not just the watcher but the entire family group. That could very well be possible.
Ranai replayed the scene again and again. Why did it squat, then vanish? Why didn't it approach? Had someone scared it off? Questions swirled heavier with each replay. One thought lingered. What really happened in those shadows?
It squats down and it's out of sight. Why don't you go up there? Why don't you throw a rock? Why don't you have the guy that's standing next to you, you stand there, have somebody climb up there, flush the animal out? I mean, what happened to it?
The team crouched beside Bobo, guiding him with care. Bobo mirrored Todd's movements from the original sighting, every motion precise. As they paused, Todd felt the forest holding its breath. Memories of that day crept back. It was as if the shadows themselves were watching. Bobo wanted to see how he measured up. The difference was staggering. He looked almost fragile. The Sasquatch was massive, thicker, broader. Its presence impossible to ignore. Every shadow, every movement. This wasn't just big. It was otherworldly.
All right, let's see how this compares. I want to see how I look compared to the actual Squatch. Okay, well, it's way wider than I am. I mean, look how narrow I am compared to it. That thing's huge. That thing is just way, way thicker and bulkier than I am, way wider. Not human. Watching the videos side by side, the subject in Todd's video looks a lot broader than I do. I think it's real.
Even before seeing Todd's footage, the BRO had collected countless sightings from this wilderness. Experiencing it firsthand, the area felt alive, dark, untamed, and uneasy. Perfect for their first night of shadows. Every movement, every sound. Something was watching, waiting. The terror comes from the unknown. Todd's encounter revealed something massive, unseen, impossible to explain. The quiet forest became a place of looming danger. Every shadow, every sound, a potential threat, a chilling reminder. No matter how prepared you are, something could always be watching from the darkness. On Small Town Monsters, we investigate a chilling roadside encounter that unfolded in the early hours of the morning. Just after midnight, witnesses Jonathan Cope and Kenny Cope were driving home from a racetrack in Andrews when something on a bridge ahead forced their attention. In the headlights, they saw a figure crouched low, clutching something, an image so unnatural it instantly set off alarm bells. What they witnessed next still defies explanation.
So we were coming from a racetrack over in Andrews, 12:30, 1 o'clock one morning, coming down the road here, and I was probably going over the speed limit, honestly, so couldn't get slowed down quick enough. But when we came across the bridge, I looked here and I seen something kind of hunkered down, kind of like this, but it was holding something, and it was pink. What it was holding was pink, and that's actually what made me notice it.
Kenny Cope witnessed the same thing. The conditions were rough, dark, with a light drizzle that blurred the edges of the road. As they crossed the bridge, the figure would have gone unnoticed, if not for one striking detail. Clutched in its hands was something vivid, almost fluorescent pink, bright and unnatural, impossible to ignore even in the dim light.
Same thing he did when we was coming through there, and it was dark, but kind of drizzly, not raining, just drizzling. And we come across the bridge, and I wouldn't have seen it if it hadn't been for that fluorescent. It was like fluorescent pink, kind of like that pink is on that ribbon right there.
From where they watched, it crouched unnaturally low, knees almost grazing the ground. In its hands was something strange. It pressed it tightly under its chin, head bowed, fingers gripping it as if trying to keep it hidden from the world. Every movement was deliberate, tense, and quietly menacing, leaving the witnesses frozen in a mix of fear and disbelief.
To me, it was more strapped lower down. Its knees were lower down the way I took it, and it was like a pink plastic tube, and it had it up and under its chin with its head down under it with its hands wrapped around it, like it was trying to hide.
At first, they thought they had seen just an ordinary figure, but the next day, seeing it again shattered that assumption. It towered over them in a way that felt impossible, its head and shoulders looming in the dim light. The sheer presence of it left them frozen, a chilling reminder that whatever they had encountered was far beyond anything they expected.
Well, like I was saying, I always thought this was maybe 4 or 5 foot high until we come out the next day.
Oh yeah.
And it's a lot taller than I thought it was.
Yeah.
And its head and shoulders was somewhere right around here. I mean, it was way up on it.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this was that tall.
What they saw matched an image one of them had found online, though its origin was uncertain, maybe something else entirely. The creature's fur was patchy, deep, hanging in uneven clumps. Sticks, leaves, and debris clung to it, as if it had emerged straight from the forest floor. And all of this unfolded in the dead of night, where darkness swallowed every detail and made the encounter even more chilling.
I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
It may be AI, I don't know, but I found it on the internet, and that's what it looked like.
Did it have the same kind of mangy?
Yes,
Really?
Mangy, except it was a reddish brown, and the hair was like that, coming down over the mangy. It was, what I seen, it was sticks and leaves and stuff stuck to it.
Yeah, it's nighttime, right? Is it dark? How?
Yeah, it's dark. And I was seeing it off the headlight.
Catching this thing? Yeah, in the headlights. Okay.
Right.
The real shock came the next morning. The imprints left behind in the ground were unlike anything they had expected, unnervingly precise. They had to position themselves just to fit their feet into the prints, a chilling reminder that whatever had passed through here was far from ordinary.
When I seen it, and what really shocked me is when we came out here the next morning was the imprints in the ground and how wide they were. Like, you know, I was having to stand like this to get in the feet prints.
And then where its knees, what I think was the knees, he stood here and had to be way over here to reach it.
Its fur hung in tangled, wavy clumps over its shoulders, rough and wild along its back, giving it a savage, untamed appearance. In the dim, shadowed forest, it seemed to blend with the darkness, every movement deliberate and unsettling, as if it was watching, waiting, and aware of every eye on it.
It was a dark reddish, brownish color.
Okay. What time of year is this again?
Relatively around this time.
Same time of year.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Its hair, where it come down over its shoulders, like in this picture,
Yeah.
its hair was wavy and a lighter color.
Okay.
A lighter color than the hair on its body.
Right.
And it was real mangy looking in the back. I mean, just about like that.
Yeah.
Even now, every time he passes through the area, he can't help but scan the shadows, hoping, yet wary, of seeing it again. The memory lingers, drawing him back, as if the forest itself is keeping secrets just out of reach. With other witnesses confirming similar encounters, the story takes on an eerie weight, a rare alignment that makes the unexplained feel almost undeniable, and leaves anyone listening questioning what might still be out there, watching from the dark. Meet Sarah Brown, the host of Salish Sasquatch. In her videos, she leads viewers deep into the forests of the Pacific Northwest, exploring remote areas with a team of seasoned Bigfoot researchers. But returning to a familiar site for a large campout would soon remind her that in these woods, you are never truly alone. The morning winds blew across the ridge, whispering through the trees as if the forest itself were alive. Larry and Jonathan paused, coffee in hand, when sharp, deliberate knocks began echoing from the drop-off ahead, one after another, cutting through the stillness. The forest seemed to hold its breath, and with every echo, the feeling grew that something unseen was watching, waiting just beyond the shadows.
So the first morning that Larry and I were here, we were walking the road having a cup of coffee, and right down this way, over here, it drops down, and we were hearing knocks, just single knocks, about every 40 seconds or so, and it was going on for about 15 minutes.
Yeah. And we walked slowly while we were listening. We walked all the way up to about that bend there of the road.
Damon Irons remembered a day that felt strangely alive. Early in the morning, he and Ed Finney wandered along the ridge when faint, deliberate knocks began echoing through the forest. Some came from one side, some from another, bouncing unpredictably across the hollow below. Damon knew this terrain well, a deep, sunken dip in the land where shadows clung, and every sound seemed to carry a warning from something unseen.
Yesterday was a pretty interesting day for us. In the morning, it started out with Jonathan and Larry were up kind of early and walking around over here, and we recorded like a couple, started hearing knocks right along this road that we're standing along, down in here. Some over here, some over there. The last couple days I've been driving by it on this thing. You can kind of look down into it, and this looks like topographically, this is a big low dip area. It goes down quite a ways.
After the morning knocks, Ed and Damon knew they had to investigate. As they approached the hollow, it became clear that something, or someone, moved through this area on a regular basis. Fallen logs had been disturbed, the earth dug into, and every branch along a narrow trail had been snapped or pushed aside at just the right height, as if an unseen presence had passed through, leaving a quiet but undeniable trail of its passage. For a moment, it seemed to have stopped. Damon and Ed sat in tense silence, convinced the disturbance had passed. But then, without warning, the sounds returned, sharp, deliberate, coming from just beyond the clearing.
And after we got the knocks in the morning, Ed and I decided that we were going to go in there. And you can tell just by looking around down there that there's something is there on a very regular basis, just living. We found some logs knocked over and kind of dug into. We came across a trail where like every branch was knocked off the side of the tree to about this high.
The forest seemed to shift around them, as if whatever was out there was testing their patience, watching, waiting. Janice described moving along the narrow path toward Virgil's camp when the quiet suddenly broke. As she passed a small tree near the edge of the grass, a single, forceful knock rang out, wood striking wood from just beyond the drop-off. The area below had already been active with repeated knocking sounds, and the night before, another unmistakable strike had come from higher up the slope, reinforcing the feeling that something was circling the camp from multiple directions.
So I was walking on this path over here through the grass, heading over to Virgil's camp, and right when I got to like where that little tree is right there, I just heard like this power knock, just wood on wood, just right down over the edge here.
And we've been getting knocks constantly from down along this area. And then last night, I got one from right up there.
Lorenzo noticed the strange echoing knocks coming from deep in the forest and hesitated to investigate. Later, driven by curiosity, he edged closer to the source, discovering disturbed branches and flattened earth along a hidden trail, calling it the work of some mischievous animal, unaware that the forest had far darker plans for the night ahead. After a day filled with echoing knocks, disturbed trails, and unseen watchers,
Jimmy did, I did. It was about 11:19, and it was like a ooh-wee sound, like way back down in here.
Back down this way.
Yeah, that's.
We need to talk to.
I talked to Jimmy about it.
the team can only wonder, what exactly is moving through these forests? Is it merely the wildlife they've always known, or something far more intelligent and far more dangerous, hiding just beyond the shadows? On Exploring with Angelo, the camera is already rolling when the moment shifts. Angelo moves with a mix of curiosity and caution, guiding viewers through remote forests and hidden corners, capturing the moments when the shadows shift, and the unknown reveals itself. An old plate lies half buried on the ground, unnoticed until now. Then comes the sound, subtle at first, moving just beyond the trees. This is not how the exploration was expected to begin. The air thickens with insects, visibility drops, and whatever is making that noise is close enough to be heard, but not seen.
Alright guys, welcome back to a brand new adventure. Old plate. Oh, there was something in there. This is not how I anticipated starting this video. Oh, you can hear it. What is that? God, there's so many bugs right now.
The light flickers and without warning, plunging the space back into shadow. Then come the sounds, sharp, deliberate taps echoing from the darkness, as if something is striking nearby surfaces on purpose. It doesn't feel random. The noises pause, then start again, testing the silence, as though whatever is out there is trying to provoke a reaction or drive him away.
Hang on. Well, that was kind of weird. For some reason, the light battery kept turning off, but you know what these freaking birds are doing right now? They're literally like pecking at things, I think trying to make noise so that way they can scare me off. Like, let's see if he does it again.
Angelo freezes as an unfamiliar sound cuts through the silence, thin, strained, and disturbingly deliberate.
What is that? Sounds almost like a child crying.
It lingers just long enough to be heard clearly before slipping away, as if testing the air. The source appears to be the barn ahead, a place that should be empty. Whatever made that noise is close, and it doesn't sound natural.
You know, it kind of almost sounds like it's coming from the barn.
He freezes as the sound surfaces again, low, uneven, and wrong. It wavers through the darkness, never settling, never revealing its source. Each second it lingers makes the silence heavier. The noise feels close, then distant, as if something is moving just out of sight, watching, waiting.
That's really weird. I'm hearing that almost crying again. What is that? It sounds like it's coming from that direction, but I can't really pinpoint where.
A subtle shift echoed from the darkness ahead, followed by the unmistakable sound of something moving across broken glass. Each step was measured, deliberate, too controlled to be accidental. He hesitated, aware that the camera had been aimed in that direction moments earlier, hoping it had captured what his eyes could not. The silence that followed was heavy. When he finally called out, asking the unseen presence to make itself known, the quiet felt less like absence, and more like a warning that had already been ignored.
Of what? Something's moving in there.
I'll move something.
Go for it. Something was literally just walking like in that broken glass, it sounded like. Oh, the camera was facing right there. I hope I caught it. Is that you? Why don't you make a sound to let me know you're there?
When he returned inside, everything felt routine at first. He moved toward a path he had walked countless times before, when something caught his attention near the doorway. For a split second, a figure appeared to be standing off to the right, motionless, human-shaped, clad in what looked like patterned fabric. Then, it was gone. The space was empty, untouched. The moment left him shaken, not because of what he saw, but because it felt deliberate, as if something had briefly chosen to be seen before slipping back into the shadows.
So, when I came back in, obviously I have to come to the kitchen area, as I've done many times, and I literally thought I saw so imagine I walked through that door, and I thought I saw off to the right a man just standing there, like in almost like plaid. It's all I saw, and then I looked, there was no one there, so that was kind of weird. I don't know what that was. Maybe somebody's trying to show themselves to me, but...
Angelo leads the camera back to the second location, the place where the figure seemed to stand moments earlier. The feeling hasn't faded. As the silence settles, a faint sound breaks through, just enough to make him stop and listen. Nothing reveals itself, but the air feels disturbed. Behind the structure, an old doghouse sits alone, oddly positioned, out of place. Its presence feels intentional, as if it was left there for a reason, and not a comforting one.
I'll show you the other spot where I thought I saw a man standing there as well. That was creepy. So what was that? I thought I heard something in here. Oh yeah, I've never really pointed this out much, but there is...
A soft, unsettling sound drifts down from upstairs, barely more than a whisper at first. It rises and falls, uneven and haunting, impossible to ignore. Each moment stretches longer than the last, leaving a cold awareness that something, or someone, is moving above, just out of sight.
I hear something. What is that? Sounds like it's coming from upstairs. I really hope they can.
Though he made it out of the night without injury, the experience left an unsettling mark. Was it merely the tricks of the imagination, or something far more deliberate lurking in the shadows? The uncertainty is what makes it so haunting. A place once familiar had shifted into a realm of tension and fear, shaped by something unseen. It's a chilling reminder that no amount of preparation can shield you from the realization that you are being watched from the darkness. On Travel Channel, every journey tells a story, and this one is deeply personal. Michael Freeman ventures into the wilderness, following the footsteps of his father, Paul Freeman, whose life changed forever in 1982. That first encounter with a legendary creature sparked a 15-year obsession. Now, Michael retraces the same rugged terrain, asking the question that started it all. What truly happened here? And is it still out there? Paul Freeman spent long stretches in these woods, convinced the land itself whispered secrets.
My name is Michael Freeman. Paul Freeman is my dad in 1982. That's when he had his first encounter with Bigfoot. And that kind of set off a 15-year obsession, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, go around this bush here, see what's going on here.
Each trip revealed new clues, fresh imprints, unusual traces, signs of deliberate movement. He filmed every discovery, building a growing archive of unanswered questions. Yet the source remained elusive. Clear signs appeared, then silence. Whatever lurked seemed to watch from just beyond view.
Now, Deduck Spring, where this video was taken, was one of the viable water sources that was still being used by animals.
Sometimes they come here and get water.
My dad, knowing this, had been going up to that area for a couple weeks, actually, and he was finding footprint tracks up there, hair samples. He had been taking his camera. He was filming the collection of evidence.
Wow, looks like he's pretty fresh.
He would find stuff, but he would never have any sightings. And he would go back, the next day or the day after, and the same thing would happen over and over.
Yeah, he's going back up the road, come down the road.
Paranormal researcher Rosemary Ellen Guiley notes that Paul Freeman's legacy comes from evidence that could be examined, not debated. The footprint casts he recovered showed fine ridge patterns.
The valuable thing that Paul Freeman contributed to the field really came from his casts of footprints, and they have been examined by experts. He was able to capture what are called dermal ridges in his casts. This is an indication of striations in his...
Can't see much up through here. I hear the brush popping and stuff. Oh, there he goes.
Consistent with skin texture, setting them apart from ordinary tracks. Following the trail deeper, Freeman documented every step, the footprints leading him from certainty toward the unknown. He had seen strange things before, but nothing like this night. As darkness fell, Paul Freeman pushed deeper, following sounds that felt deliberate. These woods held a long history of mystery, and now they seemed anything but empty. Whatever moved beyond the brush did so with purpose, turning a routine investigation into a moment that would haunt him long after he returned.
He was pale in color. You could tell that something had upset him and something had bothered him.
Oh, God.
It's the only time in my life, including the day that he died, that I ever saw my dad scared of anything. And that right there, to me, I mean, I don't have to see one. That's the only proof I'll ever need for the existence of this animal, just knowing my dad and how that affected him.
The figure moved with fluid, instinctive grace. Nothing stiff, nothing forced. Its size and proportions were disturbingly consistent, impossible to fake. Later, those closest to Paul spoke not of what he saw, but how it changed him. A man known for strength and fearlessness, someone untouchable to his son, was left visibly shaken. For the family, that reaction mattered more than any photo or footage.
People can be skeptical, but you cannot deny the impact that these sightings have had on the people who saw the activity.
I mean, what can you say? You know, your dad comes home and he's got something like this on video, and you watch it and you rewatch it and then you watch it again and you say, well, that's not a bear. You know, it's not a man. It's nothing I've ever seen. And yeah, I mean, it was exciting. It was an exciting time.
Oh, there he goes.
Whatever Paul encountered broke the image of invincibility, and that was proof enough. In the shadows, something moves. Tall, upright, impossibly still. Its coat is thick and wild, unlike any known animal. The camera rises slowly, revealing a presence that seems aware of its observer. A head shifts with quiet intention. Every subtle movement hints at intelligence, patience, and a power beyond comprehension. Alive, watching, refusing to reveal itself fully.
This is probably the most dynamic Bigfoot footage that I've ever seen.
The movements of this creature look very natural.
Doesn't look like a man in a suit. The height looks right, the weight looks right. I feel like this would be difficult for a man to hoax all on his own and the word not get out.
Oh, God. I hear my heart beating 40 miles an hour.
I believe that he saw Bigfoot. I know my dad. I grew up with my dad. I know what kind of person he is.
The figure had the unmistakable hallmarks of Bigfoot. Towering, primate-like, with a broad, dome-shaped head and massive frame. Beneath the dense fur, a lighter area hinted at a bare chest or hands held before it, adding an uncanny awareness to the encounter. The evidence was undeniable. Not a hoax, not a story from the past. Something still moves through these mountains.
She frightened my dad, who I saw as being Superman, basically. You know, growing up, big guy, tough guy, brave guy, someone who wasn't afraid of any man or beast, you know, on this earth, to actually be rattled and scared by something. I don't need any more proof than that.
Gotta be tracks here somewhere in this road. Oh, here's one.
For somebody to devote their whole life to a field like Bigfoot searching and squatching, to finally get something on camera is a huge deal.
Yeah, they've been all over this in here.
An elusive presence known only as Bigfoot. Witnessing it, even briefly, changes everything, leaving a mark that can never be forgotten. After decades of footprints, fleeting glimpses, and undeniable encounters, the forest keeps its secrets. The question isn't whether Bigfoot exists, it's whether anyone can face what's out there and return unchanged. Will Michael Freeman uncover the truth? On D-Max UK, Bryce hunts the truth behind the most mysterious wilderness sightings. This journey takes him deep into the forest to meet Rob, a lifelong member of the Chippewa tribe. Unlike fleeting encounters, Rob and his father experienced something they could not explain. A close, chilling encounter with a creature they believe was Bigfoot. Deep in the dense forest, Bryce listens as Rob recounts the moment everything changed. While hunting with his father, heavy footsteps suddenly closed in from behind. The presence moved alongside them, then exploded through the brush.
Hey, thanks for meeting me out here.
Oh, yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
This place is incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty thick out here.
So, I understand you have an encounter story that you'd be willing to share with me.
Yeah, absolutely. One was when I was hunting with my dad. And as we were going down this deer trail, we started hearing heavy footsteps coming up behind us. And at the time, it sounded like it was coming down the same trail we were walking. It kind of caught up to us and then started paralleling us. So it kind of would push through these bushes into the opening where we were at.
Mm-hmm.
They saw it. Massive shoulders, a broad chest, followed by a deep, bone-shaking roar that echoed through the trees.
And that's when we saw it. I mean, we could just see just big shoulders and chest, and all of a sudden, we heard this roar. I mean, it was a rib cage rattling roar. It felt like the tree shook, and it went right through your body.
The creature ran, then dropped into a wide squat, leaving both men frozen, haunted by an encounter they would never forget. Bryce asks about its size. Rob hesitates, then explains his 6-foot-tall father barely reached its waist, making it at least 8, maybe 9 feet tall, with a massive barrel-shaped chest and powerful frame. Every detail is burned into Rob's memory, and Bryce feels the weight of that presence, as if the forest itself still holds the giant within its shadows.
Oh, right, Rob. When I usually work with witnesses, at this point I'm a little nervous because I'm about to show you what I've been working on. But I'm actually pretty confident this time around because you really remembered a lot of details. So, I'm really excited for you to see this. Are you ready to see this guy again?
Yeah, let's see it. Holy smokes. Yeah. Wow, that's incredible.
That looks like what you saw, Rob.
Yeah. That's incredible. It's crazy. It's like you pulled it right out of my brain. That's exactly how the eyebrows looked. They went up like that and then back down. Wow.
The encounter still grips Rob like a living shadow, every detail seared into memory. Bryce and the team take a rare step, bringing in a trained forensic artist to capture the creature exactly as Rob saw it. Nothing is dismissed. Every detail could bring them one step closer to proving the existence of something the world has long doubted. The memory lingered. Something massive had moved through the forest, leaving an impression that refused to fade. Bryce brought in Michael Montoya, a master forensic artist known for turning fleeting memories into lifelike sketches.
I'm completely blown away by my conversation with Rob. The fact that he can recall so many details of his encounter is truly amazing.
It's like it's just burned in my brain.
Really?
I don't know if it's because of the adrenaline, but it's like a photo image in my brain.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said you might have had another encounter as well?
Yeah, so later on, in 1992, it was the year after I graduated.
So this is 10 years later?
Yeah, this was 10 years later. So I got together with some friends.
As Rob described the creature, Montoya captured every shadow and shape. With each stroke, the image seemed to breathe, emerging from the depths of the forest itself. By the end, what was once a memory now stared back from the page, just as real and unsettling as the day it happened. The creature was unmistakably human-like, more human than ape. Its chest jutted forward like a ledge, sloping sharply from the collarbone, while massive trapezius muscles stretched almost to its ears. Every detail lingered in Rob's memory, vivid and undeniable, as if burned into his mind.
Something like a professional sketch artist draw what you saw?
Sure. I never thought about that.
Rob's memory of his Bigfoot encounter is so strong that it gives us this incredible opportunity to bring in a trained artist to create an image of Bigfoot that just for once is not blurry. This is exactly what I was looking for.
But we can't rule anything out. We need to think outside the box. We need to try everything. Any tiny bit of information.
The image of it in the forest felt alive again, tangible and haunting, impossible to shake. When the sketch appeared, Rob's reaction was immediate. Astonishment etched across his face.
And his trap muscles on behind actually came up to where his ears were.
Interesting. Man, when you zero in on just what these things look like, it's incredible the amount of detail a witness remembers.
Yeah.
Every detail matched his memory, down to the sweep of the eyebrows and the shape of the face. Seeing it again brought back the fear, the awe, the full magnitude of the encounter. For the first time, what had lived only in his mind now stood before him, vivid and undeniable. Now, with the sketch staring back at them, every detail vivid, every shadow alive, one question remains.
How does it make you feel seeing that?
It's just like, it just all comes rushing back. I mean, I feel like I'm shaking right now, just telling that story. That's amazing.
I was really blown away by Michael's sketch because it's one thing to hear about a witness's Bigfoot encounter, and it's another thing altogether to see the creature they were talking about. Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate it, man. Yeah.
Could this be the closest anyone has ever come to proving that something truly extraordinary still walks these forests? On Small Town Monsters, investigators explore tales that start ordinary and spiral into the unexplainable. Chris Spencer and his son camped alone at Skamania County Campground during spring break. By day, they found twisted maple vines, broken branches, and a massive impression in the ground.
First people in, and only people in the campground, and we found a vine maple that was limb twist broke, an 18 by 9 inch impression in the ground. We found other branches snapped off of fir trees 12 feet up. And that night, and we thought, oh, cool, you know, didn't think.
But that night, terror struck. Something entered their campsite and forcefully grabbed their tent. What happened remains a mystery, leaving them with a chilling story no one can fully explain. Alone in the night, Chris heard movement circling the campground, two unseen presences testing him while his children slept.
Was in the campground, there's at least two moving back and forth around the camp. I think they were just messing with us, but around 4 in the morning, wow,
It was like a rock on a tree, knock. Everything went quiet. And I got out of the tent and built up a fire and waited for my kid to get up. After that, that's when I decided to start doing stuff like that.
Frozen inside the tent, weapon across his chest, he couldn't move. A sharp knock rang through the trees, then silence. When he finally emerged, he built a fire and waited. That night changed everything. Chris knew he had to find answers. John Sheridan, a seasoned investigator, has spent years listening to those who've encountered the unexplained. Some describe distant figures, calm and almost harmless, as if the forest itself is watching.
It's a difficult question because it depends. You know, I've heard so many different encounters and I've talked to so many different people. There's some things that really stand out, that you've seen. You know, they've seen a figure in the distance, right? Or it seemed friendly, and they didn't seem like it was aggressive or there was any concern. They didn't have any fear, no feeling of dread or anything like that. But then there's some times where they're being pelted with rocks.
Others share darker tales. Rocks thrown from nowhere, invisible forces stalking them, or strange disturbances at home. For Sheridan, each story unveils a hidden world where moments of calm can suddenly turn into chilling menace. Chris Brinker, known for investigating the unexplained, often hears stories from people who never thought they'd have one to share. Anyone spending time in these woods seems to have at least one tale worth telling. Even longtime friends now come forward with experiences they kept secret.
I'm usually, because when I first started, I had to really learn all the other animals too, so I listened while I looked, but most of the target subject vocalizations, they fall in a certain hertz range, and a lot of times they'll look similar to human vocalizations, and so I look at a narrow hertz range, and when I see something that doesn't match up with the known animals, then I stop and I look at it, because I look at it visually just like David does. And it's something over time. I've been doing it since 2015, it's 2021 now.
One recalled parking with a girl when two glowing red eyes stared from the trees, vanishing as mysteriously as they appeared.
I've had multiple friends at work, talk about different situations. It seems like, anybody that spends any time in the woods around here has an experience, at least one that they talk about. People that you never would have thought, and you mentioned it. Now that I do the investigating and they know that I do that, some people come forward and be like, oh yeah, I have something that happened to me that I never told anybody about. I had a friend who was out parking with a girl and had two red eyes that he caught staring at him from in the trees that just disappeared.
For Brinker, these moments show just how thin the line is between ordinary and the inexplicable. As night fell, Rebecca Slick and her group settled into sleeping bags, chatter fading. Suddenly, a tree crashed down. It wasn't just a simple camping trip anymore. With no wind to explain the fall, Rebecca realized something unnatural might be nearby.
Bed, we're all in our sleeping bags, and all of a sudden the chatter of us starting to die down to go to bed is broken by this tree fall. That changed the game, because it went from just, okay, we're gonna just be out here camping, to, oh my goodness, there's no wind. It's possible that this could be natural.
In an instant, a peaceful night in the woods became unsettling, a possible creature lurking just beyond sight. Jody Fiorganes recounted the terrifying experience his mother endured, a presence more than a shape, massive and dark, filling the space around her vehicle. It struck suddenly, a violent impact on the front of the car, a jolt along the side, and a force that touched her hair, snapping her head back.
You have others that we think of as being very passive, but as to what's creating those situations, what's causing those reports to manifest in the way they do, I don't know that there's any conclusive answer to that, at least at this point. We do tend to see, at least in most places, that sightings spike during the times of the year that people are outdoors, which makes sense. But as far as what time of the year, what location, what climate, if that makes them more aggressive, less aggressive, You do hear quite a few stories coming out of Florida, the skunk ape, sometimes Louisiana, the Honey Island area.
The smell alone suggested it was no ordinary animal. Even without a clear view, its closeness made it undeniable. She had come face to face with something extraordinary. His mother wasn't afraid. She believed the contact wasn't an attack, just curiosity. That single mysterious touch sparked a question haunting Jody.
Just given the behaviors and the things we're talking about, they seem to be pretty consistent and they're reported. Ape Canyon, if we are to believe the story of the miners, that was done as a sort of aggressive response to being shot at, or there was a curiosity factor with if the cabin was actually there. When the cabin was built, there seemed to be encounters with these creatures and the miners started shooting at them. And if we're to believe that story, maybe that tells us that they were curious, what are people doing in this really hard to reach place? And then it turned into aggressive behavior. So that was, I think, situational again.
What was out there? Watching, testing, trying to understand them. For him, proving her right became more than theory. It became a challenge to confront the unknown. This is far from the end. The woods still whisper, the shadows shift, and mysteries refuse to be solved. Stay with us, because what comes next will take you deeper into the unknown, uncovering chilling truths, strange and unexplained movements, and the bone-deep sense that whatever is out there is not just watching, it's waiting, patient, and closer than you think.